Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Leader Tree, where leadership grows, where strong roots build stronger skills, and where tonight we're going to be talking about how to know your worth. What does it mean to know your worth, know your value in the world today? It means not giving yourself away for free, right? Your talent, your knowledge, because they have value, right? Let's just take a second and evaluate how much you spent in order to gain that value, right? You spent countless hours of your life working to gain experience, right? Before that, you probably spent, hundreds of thousands, maybe even, at college. I know I spent $70,000 at college, And if I would have gone on to grad school on top of that, I would have spent more. So you could have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to college. And then you spent your hundreds of hours and thousands of hours gaining your knowledge and experience, right? So you've got a lot invested in yourself. You got a lot invested in your talent and in your knowledge. Why would you give that away? So you got to know your worth, know your value. There's a very famous movie. Well, I don't know if it's famous, but it's a good movie. It's called Defending Your Life. It's got Albert Brooks in it, and Meryl Streep is in it. And if you haven't seen the movie, they both die and they go to heaven, and they're in like this purgatory waiting area where they have to defend their actions while they were alive, to determine whether or not they're going to move on to the next level or if they're going to go back and start over. So, but there, in the beginning of the movie, there's this moment. Actually, I think it's somewhere in the middle of the movie. But anyway, there's this moment where they're replaying a scene from Albert Brooks's life, right? Where he's about to negotiate his salary for a new job that he's taking, right? And so he's sitting at the kitchen table with his wife, and he says, "Okay, I want you to be them and play real hardball with me," right? And she's like, "Okay." And she says, "Well, we can offer you $40,000. He says, "I need 65." She goes, all right. 45,000. He says, 65. She says, 50? He says, "Listen to me very carefully. I cannot take this job for a penny less than 65. I just can't do it." And she goes, 60. And he says, "You're just not getting it. 65. She goes, "All right, 65. I think you're ready." The next day, he goes to the real job. And he sits down at the desk. He shakes the guy's hand. The guy says, "We're prepared to offer you $45,000 to start." And he goes, "I'll take it." He didn't even think about negotiating that. He didn't even think about doing all the things that he talked about. He just said, "Oh, whatever it takes, I just need this job," right? So he just undervalued himself when it mattered most. And that's always struck a chord with me. That always matters to me when I see people do that. I am a factoring business broker, and I have a school where I train people to be factoring business brokers like myself. And if you're looking for something to do and you want to get into my world, check it out at factorcareers.com, and you can find out what all is involved in being a factoring broker, and the kind of money we make and the kind of job that we do. And it's kind of a lot of fun. Everybody's always looking to make money, and we're always bringing money. So everybody's always happy when I come around. But factorcareers.com is a school that I have where I train people how to do what I do for a living. And one of the things that I notice is that a lot of the new brokers, when they start working after they graduate my course, is they'll go out there and they'll immediately undervalue themselves. I can give you several instances where people will go out there, and we're only collecting like a fee of 1%, by the way, from our clients. So it's not like it's a big number. Is it a high dollar amount? It depends on how you're looking at it, right? Because we frequently do multi-million-dollar deals, and we're collecting 1% of that. So yeah, we could be getting paid, $10,000, $20,000 on a sale that we make when we make a deal happen. And so a lot of the new brokers, what they'll do is they'll undercut themselves before it even becomes a problem, right? Because they just assume it's going to be a problem. Well, you know what? You're making multi-million-dollar deals. A lot of these companies that you're making these deals with, they don't care about 20, 30 grand, okay? That's not the problem for them because they know they're going to save a lot more than what they're got now by spending that money. They're willing to spend that money now in order to save more money later, you see? So, and people undervalue their contribution. I like to tell my brokers, I say, you need to understand where your value lies. You have two things that these clients don't have. You've got the knowledge of how this system works. They don't, right? And you've got the contacts to put it all together. They don't. So they can go out there and do this without you, absolutely. But they're going to end up paying through the nose because they don't know what to look for and what to not look for, right? They don't know what to watch out for. And they're going to fall into at least one trap, I guarantee you. Right? Because banks are smart. They know how to throw a little curveball in there and sneak it under the wire, and you're not going to notice it. Right? They know how to do that. So, as their broker, that's what our job is, to try to make sure that we're protecting our clients' interests, right? So that's why our clients pay us the money, right? Because we're saving them money. A good case in point is, I want to say it was around January or February of this year. I met a company who was about to sign a deal with a factoring company when I met them. And I said, well, you know what? I'll do this as a free service for you. Just let me look over the deal. And if it's a good, solid deal, I'll let you know it's a good, solid deal. If it's not, I'll show you what's wrong with it. So as it comes down to it, it was not a good deal at all. It was not in his favor to do that deal. It was great for the bank, right? But it wasn't going to be good for him. Because although it looked like a good deal on the surface, when you dug into that contract, you found out that on the back end, he was going to end up paying an extra 10%, right? So that's going to bring the cash way up as far as what the bank is going to collect. So bottom line is I explained all the things to him that he didn't want to see in that contract. And he hired me, right? In the end, I saved him $140,000 in fees that he would have paid over the course of the year. Do you think it bothered him to pay me $40,000 on that deal? No, it didn't bother him at all, right? Because he knew going into the deal, he was about to lose $140,000 more than what I was charging him, right? $100,000 more than what I was charging him. So he didn't care. Now, see, if one of my new brokers had done that, right, they would have got scared when they saw that the fee was going to be $40,000. And a lot of them, before it even becomes an issue, they undercut themselves and they say, no, obviously, I'm not going to charge you $40,000 for what I'm going to be doing. So let's just agree to say about $5,000. What is the client doing at that point? Well, one, you're losing some credibility, right? Because now he's like, well, are you not worth the money you said you were worth? That's step one. And then the second thing is, well, why should I pay you $5,000 then? Right? Maybe we can agree on one. Right? You're opening up doors. So these are the kind of things that just open themselves up to horrors when you do that. You know, a friend of mine told me this story a long time ago. He talks about a guy who, and you know, if you've been listening to the show for any length of time, you've probably heard me say this story before, because I use it in this situation a lot when I'm instructing my students on how to avoid these things, you know. And so there's this company, and they're a manufacturing company, and their machines are down, and they're losing $1 million a day while their machines are down. They cannot get them fixed. They don't know what to do. So they call in the expert. Okay. The expert says, I'll be right out. The expert goes in there, and they're like, we don't know what to do. We're losing millions of dollars a day. Every time this thing isn't working, and it's been down for, 3 days already. We finally broke down and called you. Okay. So he goes up there. He's like, give me a minute. Goes out to his truck. Grabs his tool bag. He walks up to the machine. He's feeling around the machine. He's looking at it. He's walking around. He's kind of getting the lay of the land on it. He reaches down into his tool bag. He picks out a hammer and gives it a whack. Bam! The machine gurgles itself back up to life, and it's up and running. Then he goes and he puts his hammer back in his tool bag. He reaches for his invoice sheet, and he writes out the slip, and he hands it to the business manager. And the guy says, "This is outrageous. I'm not going to pay that." He says, "Oh, what's wrong with that? Hold on a minute. Let me look at it." He says, "Oh, yeah. I can see now where the problem lies. Hold on 1 second. Because the bill that he gives him is 20 grand, right? So he scribbles that out with his pencil, makes a couple more marks, and he hands it back to him. It says, hammer, $4.95. Knowing where to hit it, $19,995.05. So I get a huge kick out of that, because that is a guy who knows his worth. That's a guy who knows his value in the world, because he had something that all those people didn't have. And why shouldn't they pay him 20 grand to get their machines back running when they're losing millions per day, right? Because if he didn't do it, they'd still be losing millions per day. It's a guy who knows his value. And he didn't negotiate it. When the dude flipped out about his price, did he say, "You're right, I only spent about, 10 seconds doing this job. I should probably, do it for about a couple $100 maybe, He didn't do that. He said, hammer, $4.95. The rest is knowing where to hit it, which you don't know. He knew his value. He knew that he had something they didn't have. And that's what my brokers have. They know knowledge of the industry and how it works. And they know the connections to get it done. Those are two things that the clients don't have in my industry, right? My clients don't have that information. And that's why they pay me the big bucks. That's why they pay them the big bucks. But when you go in and you start negotiating yourself out of a sale up front, right? Don't come crying to me when you're living on the street because you can't make your bills. Right? I put the tools in your hand. But yeah, if you want to check out factorcareers.com and learn how to do these kind of things for yourself, absolutely go ahead and do that. That's factorcareers.com.
At Quick Paid, we know your business is important to you. That's why we put together this free B2B business financial strategy report to reveal what is really holding your B2B business back from true financial stability. Inside this report, you will be able to take a short quiz to discover what financial obstacles are preventing your B2B business from accumulating more profits. Discover how to overcome limiting systems in place, which are actively preventing you from increasing your profits, eliminating debt, and building your B2B business. And learn about the 6 profitable practices and discover which one specific action you should take immediately to increase your profits and shorten invoice payment delays.
And we're back. And if you want to get a copy of that absolutely free report for business financial strategies for B2B businesses, go to quickpaid.us. That's quickpaid.us. And you can download that report absolutely free. Let's continue on with our discussion now about knowing your worth. A good friend of mine once told me, and it changed a lot in my brain when he said this. He didn't even know what he was saying. He just kind of said it off the cuff, and it was just a comment in passing in answering somebody's question. It didn't even have anything to do with that question. But it just came to his mind as he was running through it, and he said it out loud, and I caught that. And he said to me, any information can become an informational product. And man, I tell you, that lit me on fire when I heard that, because it changed a lot of things in my mind, and just a lot of connections started coming together, right? A lot of aha moments started happening. And I myself was guilty of giving away my knowledge, right? Because people would say to me all the time, how do you do this? How do you do that? And I would just tell them, right? Because I knew I'm an expert in my field and I know these things. So I just give you that information. All the time I have friends and I have colleagues who come up to me even today and they ask me, how do you do this? How do you do that? And a lot of times I just tell them, but there's certain information, certain key bits that I say, if you want that, you're going to have to hire me. If you want that, you're going to have to pay me. If you want that, you're going to have to buy it. Right? Because I'm giving you some information to get you on the starting path. But if you want me to hand you the keys of the kingdom, that's going to cost you. Why is it going to cost you? Because I know my worth. I know my value. I have spent years, decades even, learning my craft. I have spent decades learning and honing my skills to become finely tuned. I am an expert in my industry. You don't become an expert in your industry by accident. You have to work at it. And if you come to me and you want me to give you a jump start, shouldn't I charge you for that? Of course I should. Right? Because you didn't work your ass off to get that knowledge. You just kind of get a backdoor entry. Right? A good friend of mine I was talking to the other day. She is a sweetheart, let me tell you. And I love chatting with this particular lady. And she and I have so many things in common. And I give her all sorts of information for free. I really do. I give her way more than I should. But there are certain things, and I've told her this before. I say, if you want that, you're going to have to pay me. Even her. You know what I mean? Because that's just the way it goes. You have to be clear about who you are. So ask yourself the question, folks. Ask yourself the question. Who am I? What am I good at? What is it that I know? And can I charge people for that knowledge? I'm going to wager the answer is yes. I'm going to wager that you can. Right? Because we all have spent time and energy learning something and getting good at something. Right? I mean, what is the internet basically built on? People's know-how. Right? You look at YouTube. People make money all the time off of getting up there and showing somebody how to do something. Right? You look at TikTok. Same deal. You look at Twitter. Same deal. Look at LinkedIn. Same deal. Look at Facebook. Same deal. The internet was built off of knowledge and sharing that knowledge for a fee. The way we live today was built on that principle. The information era, right? Information flows like honey today. Do you remember when you used to have an encyclopedia set. Took up like 3 bookshelves, right? In order to have knowledge about stuff. Now all you need is a mouse and a monitor, right? A laptop. Your encyclopedia set and a lot more is right there. You don't even need that anymore. They've even made it simpler. Now all you need is a phone in your pocket. You know, we got phones in our pockets that fit in the palm of our hands, and we even got some that are just inside a watch, right? That used to take an entire building to do the same things that these things can do. An entire building full of super servers and all these things used to be required to do what our phones can do today. There's no stopping us anymore. There's no excuse for failure. There's no excuse to say somebody got over on me. Because your information is available. But are you giving it away? That's the question. Are you giving it away, or are you making use of it for yourself? You know, you want to know how to take your knowledge and really make something of it? I'm going to send you to a website right now. Go to tw3systems.com and check out that website right now. And you're going to see some cool stuff. Some super cool stuff about how you can take your knowledge and monetize that. How would you like to make a multiple 6-figure income using the TW3 systems? You want to know how to do that? I actually just did a training on that at the TW3 conference. You want to get a copy of that? You can do that. Go to themillermindset.com and you can download a copy of that training that I did, where I go step by step what it takes to build your next multiple 6-figure business with the tools and the training found in the TW3 systems. You can absolutely do that. And you don't have to have a product. You don't have to have anything other than some knowledge that other people don't have. And I guarantee you've got some knowledge somebody else doesn't have that they want. Anybody's ever asked you a question, and they've asked you that question, maybe several people have asked you that question over the years, whatever that particular question is, I guarantee you, if you were in front of more people would be asking you that question. That's something that you can monetize. That's something that you can make money off of. How do you do that? You get in front of more people. How do you do that? You use the TW3 systems. The TW3 systems, that's all it's for, is to get you in front of more people. To make little carbon copies of you. Without having to hire little carbon copies of you. Without having to train little carbon copies of you, right? Do you remember the days where you used to have to hire somebody new, then train them to do what you do so that you can multiply your efforts? Those days are gone, man. You can multiply your efforts and make a little carbon copy of you all digitally now. You don't have to hire anybody. You don't have to pay anybody. You don't have to train anybody. But you got to know your worth. You got to be able to value that information. And you got to put a value on that information. And that, I'm going to give you another example. I spent years trying to overcome a brain injury that I had during the war. And I went through a lot of problems through the doctors and everything else trying to fix it. And eventually I ended up with a hypnotherapist that helped me work around the problem, right? So that my brain would find a new pathway in spite of the damage, right? So that I could function. And it worked so well, I decided I wanted to learn how to do that and help other people. So I ended up working with the VA for a while to help returning vets with pain management and things like that through hypnotherapy. But when I started my practice, I had to wait 1.5 years before the VA would award me a contract. I had to be in business for 1.5 years before they would award me a contract. So I was on my own and just doing hypnotherapy stuff on the side, and I said, okay, let me find out what to charge, right? Because you open up your new business, the biggest thing you got to figure out is, what should I charge for stuff, right? What am I worth? Well, I looked it up in the area, and every other hypnotherapist in my city, right, which was in Orlando, it was a big city, every one of them's charging $30 to $35. $30 to $35 for an hour. That's it. So I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I thought about it. You know what I came up with? I said, finally, I'm going to charge $100 an hour. And people that I knew thought that I was stupid. They really did. They thought, you're insane. If everybody's charging $30 an hour and you're going to charge $100, you're not going to get any business. Well, you know what? That's exactly the opposite of what happened. I got a good bit of business. Why? Because people said one key thing when they saw my ad, and I put it right on there, $100 per hour. So they would compare it up with everybody else, and everybody else is charging $30 an hour. And they're like, well, why is this guy charging 3 times that price? And then the next thing that entered their mind? What does he know that these people don't? Truth of the matter is, I probably didn't know anything more than they did, but I knew how to value myself. I knew how to charge what I was worth, and they didn't. So while they're collecting $30 for the same hour, I'm collecting $100. And I didn't do any better or worse than they would have done, most likely, to help my clients. But I helped my clients. My clients were all happy. I never met a client I couldn't help. So, that's the secret, folks. How do you figure it out? Think about your audience. Think about your client. Think about your customer. And say to yourself, how can I trigger in this person or company or whatever, in their eyes, that I am worth more than the other guy? And then I got to hold on to that. So when they balk at me, I don't just say, oh, you're very right. Let me discount that. Right? What do? I say, you're absolutely right. I wrote that wrong. Let me rewrite it. I'm not changing the numbers. I'm changing the mentality behind where they come from. Know your worth. Know your value. And value yourselves. Because you spent a lot of time. And you spent a lot of energy. And you spent a lot of money to get where you are. Don't be like Albert Brooks and just go like, hey, I'll take it. Whatever it is the first offer is going to be. Don't be that guy. Don't be that gal. Go out there and be everything that you can be, because you are worth it. And I, for one, believe in you. Folks, thank you so much for joining me here at the Leader Tree this evening, here at TW3 Radio. And I really enjoy having you here. If you have questions, you have comments, you can leave them for us here at theleadertree.com, where you can post your questions, post your comments. You can also access our previous episodes there. And you can find some of our interviews and things like that with business leaders that we've done. If you want, feel free to check us out on Facebook in our private Facebook group, and you can join us there as well. And that is the Leader Tree Network. Just go to Facebook, click on groups, and search for the Leader Tree Network. That's all you got to do. And you can join that absolutely for free. We'd love to have you. It's a great group of leaders, and we have a great time talking and chatting and promoting each other and so on and so forth. So we'd love to have you there. Until then, I'm Chris Miller reminding you, always keep smiling. Bye-bye.